your posture is a representation or a blueprint of your neurology's battle with gravity. And your posture affects your structure, and your structure affects your nervous system. So I can look at people and tell them what's wrong with them internal, because based on the way you stand, I can tell you what the neurology looks like underneath. So when we look at how do we fix that structure or fix that posture, portion of it is at night when you're sleeping. You stretch the neck back, and then getting adjusted helps basically take hardened clay and putting it in water. It makes the spine more moldable. Then it's still up to you to retrain the neurology.
The quality of your sleep directly impacts every aspect of your health, yet most people focus on the wrong solutions, from expensive mattresses to sleeping pills. Today's guest, Dr. Peter Martone, brings a revolutionary structural approach to achieving restorative sleep. As an educator, injury prevention specialist, and patient care practitioner with over 23 years of experience, Dr. Martone discovered that proper spinal alignment during sleep is the key to unlocking better health. In this illuminating conversation, Dr. Martone shares his personal journey from debilitating back pain to pioneering a new approach to sleep optimization. He explains the fascinating connection between cervical spine curvature and sleep quality, and reveals why common sleep positions may be sabotaging your rest. The discussion explores everything from practical sleep hygiene tips to advanced concepts like using scent anchoring and memory techniques to fall asleep faster. Dr. Martone also breaks down the science of heart rate variability and how it relates to restorative sleep. This episode will transform your understanding of the sleep-spine connection. So without any further ado, on with the show. Dr. Martone, it's so great to have you on the show.
Thank you. I love it. Get yourself optimized, right? That's optimizing your time in bed to be able to get more performance out of the day. We are so aligned. I love it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about how you got specialized in the area of sleep. Like you got trained as a chiropractor. Was there some sort of epiphany or dark night of the soul or something that brought you to the area of focus?
Yeah, and what really gives us a unique perspective is I'm an exercise physiologist, a kinesiologist, and a chiropractor. So I really geek out in the study of biomechanics and how the function of a human body. So I didn't enter the sleep industry to help people sleep. I entered the sleep industry to help them fix their structure while they were in bed. So what actually ended up happening is I, even as a chiropractor at that time, about 15 years, I had back pain every day of my life. I just attributed it to being a mountain biker or a rock climber or just, being hard on my own body, justifying it. And it wasn't until I herniated my own disc that I found myself in the emergency room, hooked up on Dilaudid with intense pain, not knowing if I was ever going to practice again or bike again, that I really started to think differently. And I reviewed 3,000 x-rays and found a pattern that, due to having, which I did, loss of cervical curve in my neck from my sleeping position. At the time, I slept curled up in a ball on my side, that the body posture adjusts to head position. So as my head started coming forward, it takes the dural pressure off of the lower back by constricting a specific muscle called your psoas major muscle. And the psoas is the only muscle in the human body that attaches directly to a disc. So by the fact of reacting to my forward head posture, I had weakened my discs. So I started rolling towels up under my neck because I figured, when can I fix this? And I, just figured the body is like clay. It can be remolded based on Davis's law. I should be able to do it at night when potentially I live 1/3 of my life doing nothing. So I could do it at night while I slept. And as I started getting my neck back in countless sleepless nights, trying to get used to this new positioning, I transformed the arch of my neck. I started sleeping deeper, started sleeping better, and I've never had back pain since. So I entered the industry as a structural sleep specialist versus, the normal way to come in. And so it really, once I started changing the way my patients slept, I started seeing all these health benefits from realigning their spine at night, reversing the damaging effect of the modern day lifestyle.
That's cool. So now you sleep like how many hours of sleep, deep and REM sleep and all that, and total sleep do you normally get?
Well, so I Like last night, because I was a little bit sleep deprived over the weekend, I got 10 hours of sleep.
Oh, wow.
But normally I sleep, and it's really difficult for people to get that much sleep. I usually
Yeah.
sleep between in bed. I'm in bed about 8 and 9 hours. I try to focus on usually getting about 8.5 hours of sleep during actually 8.5 hours of sleep during the summertime, and typically a little bit more than that during the winter time. And my REM scores depend on what I'm doing that afternoon for exercise. So I'll get anywhere between a half an hour to an hour and 25 minutes, depending on how much repair my body needs. And
Mm.
then on the other end, just because sorry, deep sleep. That's what I'll get for deep sleep. My REM sleep's usually 2 hours, because the body repairs during deep sleep and the brain repairs during REM sleep. And because I have that ADD brain, my body requires a lot of REM sleep to stay focused during the day.
Gotcha. And you were getting how many hours of total REM and deep sleep before you had this breakthrough and you had that loss of cervical curve in your neck?
Well, it wasn't so much, I never tracked it before then. I just
Okay.
started tracking my sleep within the last 10 years. And so I was always the type of sleeper that would fall asleep. I'd wake up and my shoulder would kill me. I'd wake
Mhm.
up and my hip would kill me. Or I'd fall asleep in one position, find myself with my covers on the floor, or I'm in a totally different position where I put a pillow between my legs because my hips hurt and my pillow would be on the floor. So I just was never a restful sleeper. Never tracked it because I never really put much emphasis into sleep. I thought it was a waste of time. And to be frank with you, because when you think about sleep, you're lying down, you're doing nothing. And in most people, if they don't really understand the benefits of sleep, technically it's a waste of time. But when you look at the benefits of sleep and the impact that it actually has on your overall health and well-being, and you start putting time into it, and you see the transformation that happens in every aspect of your life, that's when you really start taking sleep seriously.
Gotcha. All right. So, what are some examples of client or patient successes where they have different kinds of issues besides what you had with the loss of cervical curve and your neck? Let's say somebody has hip pain, or somebody has TMJ, or migraines, or insomnia, or CPAP. They have to use a CPAP machine. They have what's that called? Sleep. The word just escaped me when somebody has to have a CPAP machine. What do they have?
Sleep apnea.
Sleep apnea, thank you. It just escaped me
So,
for a second.
no, I get it. So, when you're thinking about each one of those conditions, they're very, very different,
Right.
right? So how somebody needs to sleep is based on something in our program we call the sleep triune. So
Okay.
you gotta think about, at night. There's a battle going on. There's a battle between your conscious brain, what it thinks it wants, the subconscious brain, what it really wants, because subconscious brain is in control, and then the body, what the body wants. So most people think the conscious brain wants to control everything and it wants to go to bed. It thinks it's comfortable. That's what it thinks. When in fact, in order to fall asleep, the subconscious brain needs to feel safe. Safety is what really allows you to be able to fall asleep. And then the body wants alignment, because the number one reason people will toss and turn is because the body's in pain. So when you're sleeping on your side, that's an unstable position, but it's safe for the subconscious brain. So the way that you fall asleep is what people need to focus on. They don't need to focus on the entire night's sleep. And then the issues that you have going to sleep, whether it's sleep apnea, whether it's your toss and turn, whether you're in pain, and all of these other aspects, you start with alignment of the spine and mind, putting yourself in the correct sleeping position.
Mhm.
Then you make the subconscious brain feel safe, and then you teach the conscious brain how to get out of its own way.
Now, you mentioned that you had many nights of sleepless, kind of like insomnia or whatever, because you had to get used to this new sleeping position. Is that common? Is that something that, like, I'm a side sleeper and I also sleep on my stomach, but more, I'd say more on my side than on my stomach. But yeah, I don't like sleeping on my back. I'm guessing you're going to tell me I need to sleep on my back.
I'm going to tell you need to start off in your back. How you end up staying asleep, that's up to your subconscious brain. So, most people, the conscious brain wants to control everything. This is how I have to do it. This is it. It's not in control. So, what's in control is the subconscious brain in the body. So if we set the body up in a neutral sleeping position where your body weight is distributed over the greatest surface area, which is on your back, you put a pillow under your neck and you do not support your head, allowing the weight of the head to act as like a a counterweight to lightly distract a curve into the spine, because the weight of your head kind of hanging off the back of a pillow is really what elicits the improvement in the arch of the cervical curve. And then you create safety for the subconscious brain where you need pressure. So
Mm.
the body, the subconscious brain likes to curl up in balls and put pillows over its head, or put its face against the pillow, because it's trying to crave safety. And when you sleep on your back, because I was a safety sleeper and I didn't know these principles at that point, yeah, I'm waking up and I'm just feeling so exposed. And we have tens of thousands of people that are either using our product, been through our programs. And the number one issue is, first, I can't sleep like that. The answer to that question is you don't have to. But when I fall asleep in the position you're asking me to, I feel like I'm falling off the end of a cliff, or I just feel, exposed. And that's because the subconscious brain and the body is so constricted in this forward plane. You see all these people walking forward, and all of this posture is adjusting to that head position, that when we lie asleep, when we fall asleep on our back, it feels like we're falling backwards. So people get nightmares and things like that. So now we understand that you can sleep slightly elevated while you're starting to transform the body into falling asleep in these positions. And then over a period of the time, the body will adapt.
Got it. And how long does this go for? What kind of results can you expect over what time frame?
Yeah, so the older somebody is, the tougher it is to change. The more insecure somebody is, or the more safety somebody craves, like for instance, a cross dominant individual, which means a person that is, let's say, right handed, left eyed, or they're ambidextrous, or they have ADD or trauma in their lives, those people are going to have a harder time sleeping opened up. The more arthritis or degeneration you have in your spine, the more pain somebody is going to have when they start to transfer into this position, which is like me. I had a lot of discomfort because my curve in my cervical spine, even though I was getting adjusted, it was straight. And when I had that straight cervical curve, that was a little, it hurt when I started bringing my neck back. But I always started, the principle that I used is I know the body really responds to what you do ritualistically over a period of time. So if I always started in that position, wherever I ended up, I ended up. And as long as the lifestyle habit was putting myself into this sleeping position that would potentially, at the time, I thought would correct my spine, by maintaining alignment, I'm just going to be as focused as I can about it, because my why was big enough. My why was, I don't care about my sleep. I care about my spine and being able to practice again, or being able to mountain bike again. And I started doing it. It took me about 3 weeks. The average person to get used to it can be, up to a month, up to 4 to 6 weeks is what we see on average. But I have people that are able to fall asleep that position, day one. I wasn't able to do it, but it took me some work.
Gotcha. And what other things are you focused on with regards to sleep, like sleep hygiene, sleep habits, and so forth, that will help our listener beyond adjusting their position as they fall asleep? So that helps to readjust or correct cervical curve.
Yeah, so the cervical curve, we have to understand, is your posture is a representation or a blueprint of your neurology's battle with gravity. So when I look at people, your structure affects your nervous system. So I can look at people and tell them what's wrong with them internal, with a high degree of accuracy, because based on the way you stand, I can tell you what the neurology looks like underneath. So when we look at how do we fix that structure or fix that posture, portion of it is at night when you're sleeping. You stretch the neck back, and then getting adjusted helps basically take hardened clay and putting in water. It makes the spine more moldable. Then it's still up to you to retrain the neurology. So we teach our patients to retrain their neurology working on a wobble board or balance work. So when you work on a wobble board and you're standing straight up, most people are going to fall backwards because they're all constricted in this forward plane, because we're doing this all day long. So when you're on a wobble board and you look straight up, you're going to retrain that neurology to keep a more upright position. At night, you stretch that neck back while you sleep, and then you stay adjusted to make the to make the adaptive process easier, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about some of the additional sleep practices that you recommend or that you personally implemented in terms of sleep hygiene and the temperature of the room, the having no light, like turning off all kind of night lights and things like that. What are some of the other things that you would recommend from a
So
sleep
we go to
improvement
a low
standpoint?
light situation in my house right around 7 o'clock, right? So, try to keep lights to a minimum in the house. As far as a lot of people hem and haw over the room temperature, I mean, you're really looking at a body that's at 98 degrees, 98.5 degrees in the delta of the room, whether it's 68 degrees, 70 degrees, 71 degrees. That delta isn't really too big of an issue. It's you give me a colder room, you're going to have less skin exposed when you're sleeping. You give me a warmer room, you're going to have more skin exposed. So I use my covers. I stick my hands and my feet out of the covers so that my body can use the hands and the feet as a radiator to cool the core. So really ultimately the issue is cooling the core. So
Hmm.
how do you cool the core? You cool the core by, first of all, not having food in your system late before you go to bed, because a byproduct of digestion is heat. You want to slow your respiratory rate and slow your heart rate down. Things that keep those stimulated is no caffeine after noon, because caffeine typically stays in your system for a long period of time. So you want to, and also decreasing exercise. You don't want to do high intense exercise within 3 or 4 hours of going to bed, because you elevate your heart rate. So anything that elevates your heart rate. So let's say, exercise, stimulants and things like that, you want to limit. So you want to decrease your heart rate, you want to decrease your respiratory rate, and then you want your body's core temperature to decrease. So how you use your covers, the room, and then another thing is I like people to use sleep masks. I either use sleep masks, which is pressure against your head, or pressure against your eyes, or put a towel over your eyes, put a pillow over your forehead. That pressure on your forehead or pressure against your eyes, light pressure, it blocks out the light, but also creates a safe environment for the body to sleep in.
Yeah, we have these pillows called sleep crown pillows
Oh,
for
yes.
putting
Yep. I
over
love them.
the top of your head and covers your eyes too. You know about this?
Yes. That's a
Yeah, they're
great product.
awesome.
I love it. Just goes right over the head and it creates that safe environment while blocking out the light.
Yeah, it's kind of like the best of both worlds. You got kind of a sleep mask, and you got something that kind
Right.
of feels like it's substantial and not just this flimsy thing that you get for free on the airplane.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. And any kind of devices or biohacking tools that you also suggest to help with sleep?
I'm a very basic person. I like, as little support as possible, because sleep is such a natural thing. I mean, we were born to sleep, and really, where it becomes an issue is too much electronics and too much technology, right? So it's not that we have, we need more technology. It's we got to get rid of technology. So I love just the lights off, dark, soothing music. And another thing, I mean, sorry, a dark, soothing environment. And another thing is a great way to teach your body to decrease the temperature, decrease the heart rate, and decrease the respiratory rate is during the day when you're conscious, focus on, let's say, meditation, prayer, or just close your eyes. I like it outside in nature, right? You get your skin exposed to the sun and just relax your body. And every time you do that, use a scent. I don't care what the scent is. It could be lavender, it could be citrus. It doesn't matter. The scent doesn't matter. But every time you relax consciously, you use that scent, and then your subconscious brain, whenever it's exposed to that scent, will decrease it automatically. So then you can use that scent and spray it on the pillow, you can put it under your nose. But what you're doing is with work, you're teaching the subconscious brain to lower its core temperature, to lower its respiratory rate, to lower its heart rate.
Yeah, that's a great tip. That's an anchor. You use the smell
Yeah.
as an anchor. Yeah, I like it. Awesome.
And the last way that you can really, one of my most effective sleep tips is understanding where your thoughts are versus where your memories are. And then understanding that your thoughts are typically in the prefrontal cortex, right? Which is where your executive functioning is, which is opposite where your sleep centers are. And so you can't think yourself to sleep. You need to remember yourself to sleep. So what I mean by that is if you think about a walk on a golf course, hole 1, hole 2, the sand trap was here, the water's there. Oh, let's go to hole 3. And you almost do like a flyby drone footage of yourself walking the 18 holes, and you put yourself to sleep with that memory. Think about that memory every single night when you go to sleep, and you'll go to sleep quicker and quicker and quicker because you're focusing on something that your brain will attach to sleep.
Gotcha. All right. Do you recommend listening to guided visualization type meditations or music or binaural beats or anything like that to help you get into a more ready state for sleeping?
I have never needed it. I do am working with specific music right now that is it's very it's done on a piano, and this specific device uses a specific bass, and you can put it on your body. It could be against your leg, it could be against your arm, could be on your hand, and then it can even be low. It's just the specific tone against your body will stimulate vasovagal response, or a vagus nerve response, which stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which then will help you sleep. I just think it really needs to be low tone, needs to be rhythmic, right? And you can't focus on it. And I also believe that needs to shut off at a certain period of time. So because if it's that stimulation, that specific stimulation will be able to put you to sleep. But then staying asleep as your brain patterns change, so don't your need for brain waves and stimulation. I just don't think we have anything smart enough to be able to adapt that with that biofeedback yet.
So how would somebody who has trouble staying asleep, like I have trouble staying asleep past, say, 6 hours, 6.5 hours, especially if I go to bed late, I'll end up waking up early around, when the sun rises. Very frustrating, even if I wear a sleep mask. So what sort of tips do you have for somebody who has trouble staying asleep?
Get back into the same memory you put yourself to sleep on. So it's self-discipline of the mind. Unfortunately, it's very difficult. So especially during when the sun comes up earlier, whether the sun's going against your eyes or it's against your skin, that light in the room stimulates you in some way.
Mm.
So in order to put yourself back to sleep, you have to have discipline of, you got to keep the brain, you got to keep that conscious brain shut down and force the body to go back into the subconscious brain, or to go back into that memory. So you got to refocus on either entering a dream, focusing on your breath, slowing your respiratory rate down. So right now, I'm waking up at 5 in the morning. I have to go to the bathroom. I don't wake up at 5 in the morning in the wintertime. I do in the summertime. And I'm having to put myself back to sleep to be able to get that extra hour, hour and a half of sleep. And it's just self-discipline of the mind to be able to do it. And it's refocusing on that memory that you put yourself to sleep. And I'll be back to sleep in no time. But it's really difficult if you're starting to think. Because if you're starting to think about things you have to do, or your to-do list, because it's a great time to think, you're never going to go back to sleep.
Yeah. I'm curious what your memory is that you pick to fall asleep to.
So my memory has changed. So for the last 3 months, I had a Christmas party, and I'll still go back to this memory, and I count everybody that's at my Christmas party. There was 115 people. I categorized them on who came with what group, when they came, walked in, I invite, and then I have my biker friends down in my bike room, and then I have, other friends here. And, so I just have a recategorizing of people. I'll go through it, and I do not worry if I get to the end, if I do, if I don't, if I stop thinking. You just got to give into that. Now the next memory, I have one way back, maybe about 15 years ago, when I was running a bobcat and I was smoothing the land. It was a really surreal thing for me to do that landscaping. For some reason, I go back to running that bobcat. And then, so I have different memories, that I bounce off of. And the most recent one is I just started golfing, and I will walk the 18 holes. Like, I know the front 9, I don't know the last 18. So it's getting a little frustrating for me because I can't remember them. But as I go through, I have another course that I know really well. I walk myself through that one. So it's just these rhythmic old memories that I put myself to sleep with.
That's cool. And where does HRV fit into the sleep equation? So, heart rate variability seems to be a metric that a lot of people are talking about, especially biohackers, functional medicine practitioners. So, yeah, where does that fit into the equation here?
Well, so one of my major focuses on sleep is positioning. Well, why is position so important? At the beginning, it was because I wanted to fix my back. But what I found was as people started changing their sleeping position, a specific metric that I had a difficult time with in my practice, because I've been monitoring HRV for almost 20 years now, is that they were good as long as I got them adjusted, but they would keep coming back and their HRV would be all over the place. And HRV is a balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. The more sympathetic dominant you are, the lower your HRV readings are. The more parasympathetically stimulated, the better your HRV readings are going to be. And what we found is when you start to arch the neck back and improve that curve, you're improving the function of the vagus nerve, which is stimulating parasympathetic tone, which is then balancing out HRV readings. So HRV basically is a way to determine how rested your body is. So the higher the variability, the more repair you're getting at night. The lower the variability, the more sympathetic tone you have, the worse quality of sleep. You had a worse quality of sleep because the HRV is so sympathetic dominant. So you'll notice with low HRV scores, you're getting less deep sleep. With higher HRV scores, you're going to get better deep sleep. So HRV is an indication of how relaxed you are at night when you sleep, basically, due to what's called vagus parasympathetic tone.
Got it. And what's a good HRV score as far as during the night? Let's say you wear an Aura ring. I do. Do you have an Aura ring?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
So the good HRV score is not comparing it to your friend. So here's what we do: is you take your HRV, you take your score, your reading, whether you use an Oura ring, an Apple Watch, you just use a sleep diary. It doesn't matter to me what somebody uses,
Yeah.
and then you're consistent with whatever it is that you're using. And then you write down, I felt great this day. Oh, I felt horrible this day. I feel great. I feel great. I feel great. In the days that you feel great, where you feel strong and you feel powerful, you look at what your HRV reading is. Then you take that HRV reading, you determine that as your healthy HRV, and then you want to increase that by 10 to 15%, and then you do different things to help improve that HRV once you establish what your healthy HRV is.
Got it. What's your optimal HRV then?
So my optimal HRV is 50. And then some other people's optimal HRV is 85. Some are 110. Some are 30. Some are, so it really depends on where you're at. If I exercise, I work out, I need an HRV the next night of like a 60 or a 65. But on average, I run between a 45 and a 50.
Got it. And what's the latest you would recommend somebody work out to not have it mess with their sleep quality that night?
It all depends on what you're working out, how aerobically active you are, and then it's the intensity really. So on Tuesday nights, I mountain bike. I mountain bike very aggressively. I never will get there's nothing I can do to ever get a good night's sleep on Tuesday night. I just can't do it. I'm too dehydrated in my heart rate. I stop exercising right around 6:30 or 7, even though I go to bed at 9:30. That's 3 hours. I'm still shot because my core temperature is going to stay elevated. Now, on a regular night, let's say on Fridays, I exercise at noon. I have no problem that night falling asleep. So you got to really, monitor what's right for you. But if I go to the gym and I just work out with weights, I can fall asleep that night, not really have an issue, within, 2 hours before going to bed. But you just need to make sure it's all about heart rate. Your heart rate, when you close your eyes and you slow your breath, if you feel your heart pounding, your breath is going to your respiratory rate is going to increase because your heart rate's is the overriding determining factor of the core temperature and what your respiratory rate's going to be. Now, if you slow your respiratory rate down and your heart rate's able to come down, well, that's the magic formula for you to be able to get good sleep. The problem is there's just so much information out there, and they're not looking at the whole big picture, right? It's like they give these. I'm a why guy. Like in school, I always ask questions, and And coming into this industry, I came into this industry with all of this understanding of something that's called allostatic load, which means you have the balance between so you have these systems that are called survival systems. Your body's going to want to survive before it wants to thrive. Okay. So your thrive systems is your parasympathetic, they're run by your parasympathetic nervous system, and your survive systems are run by your sympathetic nervous system. So your survive systems are cardiovascular, respiratory, musculoskeletal system, body core temperature or metabolism. Those are your survive systems. Your thrive systems are reproduction, immune system, and digestion. So you can't survive and thrive at the same time. Now, when we look at this thing that's called allostatic load, the body wants to survive before it wants to thrive. That's it. It's going to run you from a tiger before you're going to be able to eat a sandwich. So when you look at that balance, there's so much dysfunction in the recommendations that people give, not understanding how the body does this. They're giving blanket statements, not realizing how the body's physiology actually functions. And yes, you need brainwave patterns to come down. You need all of this, but what's the underlying reason why they don't? A lot of times people detoxify too late at night. They're eating too late. We give that recommendation, but if you can't shut off your brain, you're just going to elevate those core temperatures anyways.
Gotcha. Okay. So you have a course or a program that you take your clients through that helps them to kind of rejuvenate their sleep and improve their position and thus their cervical curve in their neck. What's the course look like? How long is it? I think you have a pillow as well that helps people. Can you walk us through your solution?
Yeah, so our solution is called a Way Better Sleep System. It's WAY stands for Awakening the Full Potential of a Well-Rested, Aligned You. Right now, what we offer is we offer a Way Better Sleep membership, which is a monthly membership. All of our sleep courses are within that membership. And, there's hundreds of hours of being able to figure out what you actually need. If you have issues falling asleep, there's something for that. If you have issues staying asleep, there's something for that. If you have an issue waking up well rested and refreshed, there's so much variability within why people don't sleep. Over these last 15 years, we've put it into this membership program. And then on a weekly, I do a webinar. I do a webinar based on what's called Health Beyond the Bed. There's so much that's affected when you go to sleep, right, by that nightly routine. But there's so much that you need to do during the day that can also affect the circadian rhythm. If they go to drsleepright.com, you can kind of look at the Way Better Sleep System. And then once a quarter, we do a free 4-day sleep challenge. And that's a way where you can come in and you can go through the pillars that we have of sleep, whereas positioning and timing and the sleep rituals and establishing good restorative sleep, and you can do that for free. So they can find all that stuff out at drsleepright.com.
Okay, cool. I'll include a link to that in the show notes. So let's talk about your pillow for a minute. So how did you come to invent that? And do you make changes in it and kind of have version 1, version 2, version 3, et cetera?
Yeah, so the pillow was out of frustration for me when I was trying to learn how to sleep on my back to get to get that right positioning. And when you look at a pillow over these last 1,000 years, I don't remember how long, it's a support for your head. And you can't support the head and get good quality sleep because anytime you support something, you're going to make that what you're supporting weaker. And in this case, it's the cervical spine. So then I tried cervical pillows. They support the neck, but they also support the head at the same time. And again, whenever you support the body without a distractive force or some sort of force to cause change, you're going to weaken it. So I started rolling up towels, and I would put a towel under my neck and then rest my neck on the bed. That was good to a certain point. Then I started sticking down pillows under my neck. And what I found is if I got it just right and my head was about 1/4 of an inch off of the bed, that's where the magic was. So I started designing what we call now the neck nest. And actually, I can show you right behind me. Super easy. And you can do this with a regular pillow, just a little bit more difficult. But what you do is you take a pillow and you put it under your neck, but the weight of your head needs to be just off of the bed. And then, so that's that head basically hanging on in space, that creates this light distractive force Distraction is a stress that causes change. So you'll gently stretch the curve back into your neck, even if you just stay in that position for an hour and then you go to your side.
Yeah.
But you want to put the body into some sort of corrective position for at least an hour a night.
Hmm. Got it. And for those of our listeners who are not watching the video, I'll include in the show notes, or my team will, a screenshot of that part of the video where you were demonstrating laying on that pillow. That looks really cool. Awesome. So if somebody just gets the pillow and they don't do your monthly membership site, can they still get the benefit?
Yeah, so they can on necknest.com where they purchase the pillow. There are a bunch of videos, and I would recommend people when you get if you do get a neck nest, understand that you can't buy a more comfortable pillow. You have to buy a functional pillow, and then function becomes comfort. So once you start using a neck nest, my recommendation, just use it for an hour a night, half an hour a night. Just start getting used to it. And then as your body starts getting used to the position, you'll then start to see your sleep transform. It's not easy. I'm definitely not going to lie to you. We've helped thousands of people do it, but it takes work. So you focus on just falling asleep in the position that is on the site, explains to you how to angle the pillow, how to get it just right, and to ask. We're in another process with the neck nest. We're using a different fill, and so we're going to have two fill options with the neck nest. That's going to be 2.0.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because the more comfortable you are with getting and staying uncomfortable, the more you'll get out of your life, right?
Right. So, and that's the thing. The problem is with the subconscious brain. What the conscious brain thinks is comfortable, it's actually safe for the subconscious brain. So it's the subconscious brain's safety telling the conscious brain that it's comfortable, but it's not, because the body's like, "What the heck are you doing? There's no way I can fall asleep like this or stay asleep in that position." Because the number one reason people toss and turn is because the body's out of alignment when they sleep, causing the average person to toss and turn 20 to 40 times a night. And that is what we're trying to change. We're trying to change the dialogue on sleep, right? We're trying to not buy a more comfortable bed, not try to buy a more comfortable pillow. We're trying to create functional things, and then comfort comes down the road.
Yeah. Speaking of the comfort and discomfort and all that, reminded me of this conversation that Dr. Andrew Huberman had with David Goggins, who wrote the book Can't Hurt Me, huge best-selling book. And they were talking about the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. Dr. Huberman was sharing with David Goggins this particular part of the brain, this region of the brain, and how you get uncomfortable and work on something challenging or get out of your comfort zone, like by at least 10%, but not like hugely where you're putting yourself into massive stress. But it is definitely outside your comfort zone, and you get all these health benefits from it. And are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with that portion of the brain, but yeah, the hormesis is the body's ability to change. Like, you don't get fit when you're exercising. You get fit from the delta that exercise causes, and then your body adapts afterwards. And yeah, so in order to create change within the body, you need to move outside of a comfort zone, cause pain in a sense. That pain then over a period of days causes adaptation. It's the same thing like shoveling snow. You shovel snow one day, you're fine. But you shovel snow 2 days later and your back goes out on you. Is it because you shoveled snow wrong? Or is it the adaptation to shoveling it the first time in the season? Then your spine swelled. Then it increased your predisposition to shovel snow and your back going out on you the next time. So there's always that delayed onset of adaptation before the body gets strong.
Yep. Yeah. So I'll include in the show notes for this episode that bit from David Goggins and Andrew Huberman talking about the anterior cingulate cortex and the benefits in terms of how it can really change your life. Pretty fascinating. Okay. So one area that I think would be interesting to talk about is just kind of like the counterintuitive biohacks and habits that you recommend our listener who might not have even heard of these before, but something more counterintuitive or a bunch of these that I think would help our listener.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
So one of the big things is understanding that our bodies within a circadian rhythm, our bodies are really tied into rhythms, and it's tied into the rhythms of when the sun rises, the sun sets. And one thing that's also tied into that is our body's core temperature. So as our core temperature drops, that allows our body to release melatonin. So what is a way to biohack a drop in your core temperature? Well, some people can take a hot shower or steam right before bed, or a sauna. Then when they get out, that cooling can actually stimulate a melatonin release and make you tired. Some people that run hot will actually take a cold shower and then allow that body's temperature drop from cooling to stimulate melatonin release. So I think a really cool way to play with making yourself tired so that you fall asleep in a relaxed state, either take a hot shower or a cold shower and see which one works for you. I really love, looking at addressing your body temperature in a unique way to be able to stimulate somber.
And what about taking a melatonin supplement?
Yeah, melatonin supplement. I like more the magnesiums and zincs and L-arginines and GABA. That really calm the brain down, create a relaxed environment, so then the body naturally releases melatonin. I just don't like superseding the body's natural mechanisms unless you're traveling and going time zones and you need to force yourself to sleep to take a melatonin.
Gotcha. Okay. And do you do something different during the time of year where the days are longer versus when they're shorter, such as the winter?
I don't. It's just sticking with just changing my bedtime. I'll just go to bed an extra half an hour later, and then just give myself the opportunity to be able to do that. That's all.
Okay. So you go to bed later when it's the summer, or you go to bed later when it's the winter?
Good. Yeah, I go to bed later when it's the summer. You
Okay.
want to be able to go to bed as close to sundown as possible. Obviously, it's not going to happen during the wintertime, but during the summertime, you can get a lot closer to that. That's why
Yeah.
people, I believe, are healthier, because they're, more in line with the circadian rhythm.
Yeah. And you said towards the beginning of this conversation that you try and keep the lights low after 7 p.m. Do you actually use candlelight, or do you use red light, or what do you do?
We use candlelight, or just a few lights. We have dimmer switches on most of our lights. I like to try to use are they incandescent? The
Hmm.
more old school,
Yeah.
the older school bulbs, which are really hard to find,
Yeah.
versus that LED light. But wherever we have an incandescent light, that light's on, the other ones are off.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, what would be our next step for our listener to take so that they can see if they can make some improvements in their sleep by using some of your approaches and systems?
The next step is to just maybe go to Instagram, follow us, see if our message, there's a lot of free content on Instagram at DR Sleep Right. That's my handle on Instagram. See if that content resonates with you. You can also go to drsleepright.com. Although today I just found out there's an issue with my survey, but you can typically take a survey there that you take a quiz to sleep risk assessment, and then it scores you and then gives you a sleep score, and seeing how your sleep habits are affecting your daily health. And then you can just scroll through all the free information. If you want to join the membership and you're ready for that, you can. But you can always put your name on the list and join one of our free 4-day sleep challenges that we launch quarterly.
Awesome. Well, those are some great next steps. Thank you so much, Peter. And thank you, listener, for wanting to improve your health and for listening to this show. We'll catch you in the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off. If you want to hear more conversations like this on sleep optimization, then I recommend episodes 58 and 419 with Dr. Michael Bruce, episode 209 with Klaus Pumer, and episode 220 with James Swanwick. Also, I invite you to check out the show notes, transcript, action-based checklist, and all the URLs mentioned in this interview with Dr. Peter Martone at getyourselfoptimized.com/501. If you enjoyed the conversation, I encourage you to share this episode and, more importantly, the entire show, Get Yourself Optimized, with a friend. Change a life and help me spread the light. Thank you.